I know it's hard to believe, but sometimes when you write code, you don't just want to send it to the autograder and then immediately forget it ever existed. Often, you want to actually share that code so it could be used by other programmers or users. So in order to do that, you would need to somehow give your .java files or your .class files out to the world, and even for a medium-sized project, that could be dozens of .class files. Now for this one, it's easy. I'd only have to distribute these two class files in order for someone to use this mostly useless ugg.josh.animal package, but for real-world projects, they could be much bigger. So what we're going to do is use something known as a .jar file. We're going to create one, and it basically acts as a bundle of a bunch of different class files that you can share as a single file, and then someone can import them into IntelliJ, or specify them as a library. And so with one single file, you can end up having one or even many packages all at once at your fingertips. So in order to do this, in order to create a jar file, I'm going to use IntelliJ. There are other ways to do it. There's other command line tools, but this is the easiest way and the one that we'll recommend you use for this class. So I'm just going to follow these directions on the slides which I wrote, and I'll go to, in this case, File Project Structure. So we've used File Project Structure before to get libraries into our IntelliJ environment, and in this case we would actually, we already gave you some jar files that you would be adding using libraries. So now we're doing the other thing, where we're going to create the jar files themselves so that other people could add them to their library later. So to do this, after doing File Project Structure, I'm going to collect artifacts jar from modules with dependencies, and then I get this little window, and in this dialog, I'm just going to click OK twice. Okay, you could do more stuff, but that's what we're going to do. So after you've done this, you've specified a particular artifact you'd like IntelliJ to build. So I'll click Build, in this case, Build Artifacts, Build again, and now it cranks along and does something. Okay, so actually what it just did is if I go now to my computer and I see what actually got produced, then in the in this out folder, there's now something called artifacts. And if I go in there, there's now a file called live.jar. So once I built an artifact, I have live.jar. In this case, the version I did in the slides was packagedemo.jar, same idea. And at that point, you can give this jar file to someone else who can then use it as a library for their programs. Now, one thing I want to mention is that jar files are actually just zip files. And we can go to live.jar, and I can put in zip, yes, and I can open live.zip, and now I see that it's actually just those class files. So nothing here happened that was very magical. Now occasionally jar files have a little extra meta information, but the main point here is that when you give out a jar file, you are giving out your class files. And as it happens, it's very easy to take a class file and turn it back into a Java file. So it does not make your code safe to distribute. If you want to keep your ideas safe, your program safe, keep it safe from reverse engineering, making a jar file is not enough. And similarly, if you're in this class and I don't know, you have a friend who's stuck and you give them a jar file of your code thinking, well, they can't just copy my code, right? Actually, they can if they know what they're doing. It will take somebody who has Google skills, maybe, I don't know, 5 minutes, 6 minutes to figure out how to do this. Maybe try it out yourself, kind of fun. So just be aware, jar files don't keep you safe. So that's it for jar files, really. Though I do want to mention one more thing. You'll notice it's a little annoying in IntelliJ to always do things like, okay, project structure, libraries, or artifacts, or whatever else, and setting up all of these kind of meta project ideas is a bit of a pain. And so there exists something known as a build system that automates that kind of process. It does more. I'm not really going to talk about it much in class, but there's a bunch of build systems out there like Ant, Maven, Gradle, which seems to be getting very popular. And these can be really useful for big teams, big projects, where you don't want to have to write out a bunch of directions like we do in the labs. It's like, go to file, project structure, yada, yada. In that case, you can provide a file that automates all of that stuff. In 61B, our projects and our homeworks are just not quite big enough to really justify this, though we will use Maven in Project 3, at least in the spring 2017 semester. So that's it for jar files. So let's move on to some other exciting syntactical things.